And you are all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, James. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call the Reynolds School Project Building Committee to order. It is June 17th, 2021. It is a little after 5:15 on Thursday afternoon. First item of business is the call the meeting to order, which I just did, and then we will then ask Jeff to do the roll call for us.
Okay, members are asked to signify their presence when the name is called. It's Councilor Camillo.
Here.
Councilor Minor.
Here.
Mr. Sylvia.
Present.
Ms. Stam.
Here.
Ms. Dugan. Mr. Wetzel. Mr. Woods.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. And as Jeff said, Carol and Jeremy are not with us this afternoon. They both had conflicts. Next item is take action on prior meeting minutes, which is the meeting of June 3rd. If nobody has an issue, I would entertain a motion to approve as written.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Mike Camillo, seconded by Cindy Stam. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Our next item is public participation. We do have one attendee I see, and if I think it's *9, correct? If you're calling in from the phone,
Correct.
then that will raise your hand if you'd like to speak. Doesn't look like they want to speak.
Nope, we're all.
Okay, we're going to move on to the architect's status report. I believe we have Jennifer from Castle Booze with us. Good afternoon,
Yes, hi.
Jennifer.
Good afternoon. So I'm here along with Paul Dominov.
Oh, I didn't see Paul. I see you just leaned into the camera now. Hi, Paul.
Good afternoon. Hello. So just a brief report to update you on our status. We do continue to have site visits out there. The surveyor's been out there as well, as we just gain more information about the building. And we have had some recent meetings, including a phasing kickoff meeting with Dr. Brummett, Jason Smith, and Lou Jakimowicz. I'm sorry, Lou, I probably say your name wrong.
It's Jakimowicz. It'll take a while, but you'll get it down.
Thank you. People keep telling me, and I still can't seem to manage it. But so I apologize. But we did, and with the OPM, Marnie Liska was at the meeting as well, and really conducting the meeting to provide more information about what they can do moving forward during construction, what flexibility is there with swing space and programs. So we did gain a lot of information, and I know Marnie's been working with that. It's been really very helpful. And we looked at the building and site logistics as well. We also had a meeting to review a couple of schematic design concepts. We had a couple of different directions, and we wanted to have those discussed with Dr. Brummett and Jason Smith and somebody from their curriculum side to make sure that they were educationally, sound ideas, and that they were incorporating what we learned from visioning programming, as well as the educational specifications. So we reviewed these concepts, came away with some good feedback, and I'm about ready to send a revised and updated concept, schematic design concept to those that were present to make sure that that we've accommodated what we heard. We do, if we were on the agenda for the next meeting, our intent would be to show a floor plan schematic design concept as well as site plan concepts to update you so that you can see where things have developed based on information with the administration and teachers and all of that. So that's what we've been doing, is developing these schematic concepts for site and building. I also did reach out to local authorities having jurisdiction, such as the fire marshal and building official, to just update them, introduce myself, update them on the project, and try to get a little bit of information on historical information from them. So that's about it. The upcoming activities are really to get those concepts vetted and finalized with the administrators, get those in front of you so you can see where we're at, and give you our schematic design submission. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Got it. Sure.
Any questions for Jennifer or Paul? Okay, well, thanks. I know that you guys have been doing a lot of work, and obviously we appreciate it. And it looks
Steve,
like-
Steve has his hand up.
Oh, yeah, I see him now. Again, go ahead, Mr. Sylvia.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Jennifer, I don't know if you had an opportunity to see the email that I sent to you that had my questions that follow up on those status. It's of interest to me to understand if what programs may be mobile or not, or if we need to have any additional on-site classrooms, or is the administration provided any kind of feedback on our flexibility and mobility and those types of questions?
Jennifer, if I could respond for you, because I know Stephen, Jennifer had forwarded me your email, because I've actually can probably respond to your questions a little more thoroughly. So Jennifer, are you finished with your report?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who was talking?
This is Marnie Liska. I'm with Construction Solutions Group. I'm your owner's rep. Yep.
Oh, okay,
So,
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So actually, your questions were appropriately timed, because I was planning on discussing those items as well as a few others tonight anyway. So,
Thank you.
yep. So if you could just bear with me, I do want to update the committee on a few other items before I answer those questions.
Thank you very much. I'll be quiet.
No problem. So I issued the request for proposals, the RFP, to the 4 shortlisted CM firms last Friday. Mr. Barron had made a suggestion that I could go ahead and issue that, and then issue an addendum after tonight's meeting should the committee wish to add anything to the RFP or change anything to the RFP. So I believe that RFP was distributed to everybody for review. I do have it here. I can bring it up on my screen. Let me see if I'm able to share. Here we go. Okay, is that on the screen, everybody?
Yes, it is now.
All right, great. So this is a fairly large document, so I'm just going to highlight a few points, and if anyone has any questions, you can stop me at any time. So again, this was emailed to the 4 shortlisted firms. It's Consigli, Downs, Gilbane, and Newfield. So it, let's see, contains a description of the project, which actually they were very familiar with. Again, reiterated the budget, talked about the project delivery method. So for those of you who are involved in the town hall project, this might be similar. So the contract that gets issued to the CM is an AIA document. We call it an A133, and that gets the CM going with pre-construction services. And then after the CM puts the project out to bid to trade contractors and presents a GMP to the building committee for approval, the committee will issue the second part of that contract, which is the Amendment A GMP. So the GMP amendment will update that contract, if you may, once that GMP is submitted and approved. So I also talked to them about the services that we would like them to provide in all of the design phases, conceptual design through CD phase. We actually are going to modify the conceptual design phase. We're going to take that requirement out and actually proceed with schematic design phase. And I've reviewed that with Stephen and KBA, and we're proceeding with that. What else do we have here? There's a fee proposal form, obviously, that they fill out. They're going to provide us with the hourly rates of all their staff, as well as the hours per week that these folks will be allocated. So what I'm looking for this project that I feel is appropriate would be a full-time project manager on site, a full-time superintendent, and a full-time project engineer. So the other staff that the CMs may feel is necessary, they can provide a quote for that staff in the matrix you see right here. So this staffing matrix is part of the RFP. It shows the firms the duration of pre-construction, which also corresponds to your design phase, as well as the bidding and GMP preparation phase, which happens right around here. And then it shows them the duration of construction. So again, as I indicated, this is where we have our requirements for staff, and this is where the optional staff is. So they complete this form by inserting the hours that each of these folks will spend on the job in the boxes, what their rate is, and then this total they'll transcribe to the proposal form. So just back to that proposal form. So
Actually, Chris got it. Chris Minor has his hand up. Chris, you want to ask a question now, or?
I'll ask it now just real quick. So you had indicated that the CM was not going to be involved in the conceptual phasing. So am I to understand that we finalized on a concept and we're just forward to schematic, or am I missing something?
No. KBA, I believe, is ready to propose a conceptual design. So I believe they're going to be scheduling a presentation to Dr. Brummett as well as Jason sometime next week is the goal. And of course, I'll be there to participate so we can get their comments. If there are any if they have any alternates they would like to contemplate, we can bring those to the committee as along with their approved conceptual design. And upon the committee's approval, we'll move forward. So it's not atypical for the CMs to not get to get involved at schematic design phase and not conceptual design phase. And based on the timing of when KBA started the conceptual design phase and when we expect to have a CM on board, we felt that that was appropriate because right now we have proposals due from the CMs on June 30th and interviews scheduled with the committee for July 1st, which is Thursday. So all 4 of those firms will be presenting to the school building committee And interviews will start at 5:15 and go through 8:30. So we've gone over this schedule with KBA and with Stephen prior to tonight's meeting. Each of the firms will present for 30 minutes, followed by a 10-minute Q&A session. So the committee can ask whatever they would like. And the goal afterwards is for the committee to be able to select a firm and make a recommendation afterwards to town council for approval. So again, based on the timing of conceptual design really coming to an end before that time, I did not want the CMs to include costs in their bids for something we're not going to need. All right, obviously cost is an issue. And then if there are value engineering options we need their help with, as far as cost estimating goes, they can help us with that in schematic design phase. So the so the CMRFP indicates that they will be responsible for providing estimating services for alternates.
Okay, because I just, once again, having the CMs involved as early as possible with a third, entity doing their cost analysis runs tends to be, advantageous in the long run. And I just wanted to make sure we weren't putting them out too far.
No,
They're not getting a good look at it.
No, we felt that this was an appropriate way to handle it so that we weren't delaying the completion of conceptual design until we got a CM, because of course KBA is on a specific schedule. However, we would be able to tap into the resource of having the CM provide us with cost estimates for, alternates for various scenarios if that ends up coming to fruition.
Okay.
Okay.
Good,
So
Chris?
go ahead.
Chris, are you good now?
Yeah, I'm good for this point.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Marnie.
Okay. So last but not least, the proposals that you'll be receiving from the CM will have a few parts to them. They're going to give you a lump sum for pre-construction services. All right, so that pre-construction includes all of the activities that I've indicated in this matrix, okay? So there's a nice list here to guide them with what will be included. Now, at the same time I'm presenting this RFP to you, I'm working on an addendum, which will go out tomorrow, which will answer some questions that I've received from bidders. We're also going to be scheduling a walkthrough for the bidders Monday at 2 p.m. at the school. And that was requested by more than one of the bidders. So I'll be conducting them on a walkthrough, and I've coordinated that time with Mr. Smith. I'll also be in the addendum revising this RFP to reflect what we're discussing now, as far as eliminating the conceptual design services, establishing the revised proposal due date, because originally they were going to be due a week earlier. However, I felt that if the bidders wanted to do the walkthrough, that they may come up with questions after that walkthrough. So after establishing the walkthrough, the due date for questions and RFIs had to be extended as well, which pushed the proposal due date again out to the 30th. So this all still aligns with the schedule for interviews on July 1st and a recommendation to town council thereafter. So a couple of things in this RFP will get cleaned up. in the addendum that'll go out tomorrow. Again, the conceptual design phase will be eliminated, as I explained. A few other items will be changed. I had indicated that the GCs would be responsible for dumpster and cleanup costs, as well as portalettes and temporary hand washing stations. And we decided to put those into the trade contractor packages. We feel that's more appropriate. And last but not least, we're going to revise this form here, which is actually where they're going to input their pricing. So again, we'll be asking for a breakout of the pre-construction services fee, their CM fee as a percentage of the cost of the work, and then a construction services fee. Now, the construction services fee will have two parts to it. One will be their staff costs, and the other will be the services, again, that we've asked them for in this matrix. The reason why we have these items broken down on the fee proposal form is it allows you to make an apples to apples comparison between the four bidders a lot easier. You can understand, what they're carrying for staff. You can compare their CM fee percentages. It's a lot easier than just getting a lump sum proposal. So tomorrow's addendum is going to eliminate this section here, D. So the recommended CM contingency fee is going to be eliminated. We've asked for it on other projects, but I found it's creating confusion with our bidders because this fee is not established until GMP time. CMs cannot tell you what this fee will be until they've done a review of the final construction documents, because the contingency is based upon the completion of those documents and if they feel they need to carry monies for things that may not be shown in the documents. So to avoid that confusion, I've eliminated this. It will not change the cost of the services. This was an estimate only. And finally, we're asking each bidder to give us a monthly fee adjustment. And the reason we ask for this is if they finish the project early, they have to give you this money back. If they're 3 months early, they give you 3 months of this back. If the schedule extends for any reason, we've already have a number that's been competitively bid to use for a change order. And then insurance and payment and performance bond rates, we also ask for that.
Before you want, Chris, you have your hand up again? Chris? No, Chris Minor?
I think he's having technical issues right now.
Okay. All right, we'll come back to you, Chris. Go ahead, Marnie, I'm sorry.
No problem. So
No,
if
but
anyone-
I'll let her finish. Thank you.
So if anyone has any questions on this RFP form, please let me know, whether it's now or anytime during my presentation if you're having technical difficulties.
All right, so I think Chris is back. Chris, do you have a
Okay.
question?
Yeah, it's a very stable
No,
this afternoon. So I got a question on,
nah, Chris, you're broken up. We'll come back to you, okay? Hopefully you'll get a better signal.
All right, I'll keep going with the rest of my report, but again, once we clear up the technical difficulties, anybody, Chris, anybody else, you can ask me questions about this anytime. So another item I wanted to update you on is the phasing plan exercise that I, myself, KBA, Dr. Brummett, Mr. Smith, and Lou have been working on. So as Jennifer indicated, we all met last week to start to flush out a phasing plan. I feel that this is important to give to the bidders, not as a set in stone kind of phasing plan, because it will develop over time. And it will, once we have a CM on board, they'll get involved in this process. But I did want to issue them something that advised them of the complexity of the phasing plan. Because the fewer phases you have on a project, the fewer costs you'll have from your CM. The more phases you have, the higher the cost will be. So again, I was getting feedback from the CMs about a phasing plan. So I felt it was important to, give them a draft of something so that they don't come back later, our low bidder doesn't come back later and say to us, oh, well, I thought I could do the job in 3 phases versus 6, for example. So this phasing plan is fluid. I'm still working on it with participation from Mr. Smith, from Dr. Brummett, from Lou. But this is my first blush after what I learned from that group at our meeting last week. So these blue rooms represent classrooms that the school felt could be cleaned out to use as swing space during the construction phase. So we did discuss a couple other areas. We did discuss possibly using the gym and subdividing it for temporary classroom space. I'm trying to avoid that at all costs because it creates obviously a hardship for the gym program during inclement weather. We did identify that the cafeteria could be used for gym class on days of poor weather. I learned that each class actually has gym twice a week. So we would use this area when the weather isn't good enough to go outside. So what I wanted to do is try to keep this gym as available as long as possible. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and suggest the contractor take possession of it for phase 1 only. And the reasoning is this. The site of Anna Reynolds is congested and, as you know, has a varied topography. So over here, you all know that you've got a steep hill. And over here, you know that you've got a hill that goes down to the ball field. So the school has play areas for the kids in the back and on the side. So the goal is to maintain those for student use as much as possible. However, the contractor needs a staging area immediately adjacent to each construction area throughout the project. And the reason for this is that if we established one central location for staging on this site, let's, for example, say we're going to establish something here and we're going to leave it here throughout each phase. What's going to happen is when the contractor is working on, let's say, the art media center phase, he's going to create a path to that staging area all day long. He's going to be moving materials from the staging area to the construction area, which is going to mix construction traffic with the kids playing outside. So we can't do that. Lou actually made a good suggestion that I think is spot on, which is to relocate, have the contractor relocate the staging area as each phase changes. So that's what I'm showing in this phase one. So phase one would take over these rooms. These kids would be moved into the swing spaces. The elevator addition right here marked with the E, construction would start, as well as work in the boiler room on both levels. And the gym area would be used as a staging area. Alternatively, there could be some staging in front of the gym, but I don't think that that's a good idea, because again, the contractor will need to get materials from this area to this area. And if the gym was available to them, they could cut through it. They'll go around this way, which also is not very desirable since your buses stage here. So for this phase only, I'm showing the gym to be out of service, if you will, for a contractor staging area. And I'm hoping actually that we're able to improve on that, to find some other solution. But for now, this is where we're at. Phase two then, upon the completion of phase one, I'm showing we're flipping over to the other side of the school. So the reason we're doing this is I don't want to go in a clockwise rotation because we need to use these rooms as swing space. So again, these kids will move into the blue rooms. The contractor will take over this area and relocate a staging area here. So anytime you see on this phasing plan where the contractor has a staging area, it will be blocked off from the rest of the play areas with chain link fencing and privacy fabric. All right, so that here and here will still be available for students to use as a play area. Phase three moves to the kindergarten area, as well as I'm suggesting that we renovate the gym at this time, because you can see here that this is a not as involved as the other phases. So I thought we could add on the gym at this point. Phase four, we're headed to the back. Now it looks like these are our 3 swing spaces. It looks like we may not be showing adequate swing space here. However, we really only have 3 classrooms we're vacating at this point. 1, 2, 3. This classroom, according to Mr. Smith, is not currently being used, so we don't need to have an available swing space for it. Phase 5, 4 classrooms being taken, 4 swing spaces, and phase 6. So phase 6 kind of leads me into another topic. You can see here that I'm suggesting this phase take place the summer of 2024. And I know that the building committee had intended for this project to be complete at the end of the school year, 2024. So we're thinking, you know, May, June. However, I'm suggesting to the committee that we continue construction through the summer so that we can do this work when the school is unoccupied and the kids are there. This is where all the parents drop off their kids. Here's our kitchen, our cafeteria, our nurse, and our main suite. If we try to do this work while school is occupied, we're going to have to find temporary locations for each of these functions. We're going to have to establish a temporary kitchen. We're going to have to establish a temporary office. We're going to have to relocate the bus entrance. I'm sorry, the parent drop-off entrance. To do this would be extremely expensive for not realizing any gain to the project. An example would be if we had to set up a temporary kitchen. At this point, the rest of the school has been renovated. we would have to move these functions into classrooms or other rooms that have been renovated for their final purpose. And then when this phase is done, relocate these functions back. This would definitely cause these finished spaces to require refinishing. Once these functions move out, you're going to find you're going to need to repaint all the walls. You may have to replace the flooring. You would have had to put in a hard flooring for a temporary kitchen somewhere, as well as significant electrical requirements for cooking equipment, refrigeration equipment, and so forth. So I think you're understanding where I'm headed with this and why. So to extend the schedule into this summer, our phasing plan would change for construction to continue through August of 2024. So I have not indicated to the bidders in this construction timeline how many months are phase one, how many are phase two, and so on. But it's pretty obvious that this is when phase 6 will be. So what will happen is the kids and staff will come back in September 2024, and everyone will move into their permanent finished space. The additional, let's say, general conditions costs from your construction manager will be more than offset by the costs you would have had to pay to set up temporary areas for these relocated functions if the school were occupied. So there's absolutely no cost impact to the project to make this trade-off. So it's my intent when I issue that addendum tomorrow, I'll be issuing these revisions. So this will actually move to 27 months. And here's our first summer. I think the committee's aware that we were always going to try to capitalize on this summer. The goal for that summer is to complete as much asbestos abatement and hazmat removal as we can, as well as start the procurement of long lead items. Because there are so many procurement problems and delays happening now because of COVID, I'm kind of being a little conservative, and I'm thinking that we're going to need to order materials for this phase as early as possible. Now, will this be the case a year from now? I don't know. But I thought it was more prudent to show the CMs while they are working on their pricing that we will need their participation in this summer for pre-ordering materials and so forth. So we will need their pre-construction staff working at the same time as their construction staff. So does anyone have any questions on the staffing matrix, the extension of the schedule into this summer, the phasing plan, any questions at all? Or about the RFP that we talked about before this?
Chris has his hand up, but before I go to Chris, back to Steve's question. So as it stands now with what you just showed us, basically, there will be no students relocated outside of the building. We will contain everybody within the building, correct?
Yes, we will contain everyone within the building. I know, Stephen, another one of your questions was about relocating programs. We did discuss last week with Dr. Brummett and Mr. Smith. They indicated there was the potential to relocate pre-K kids out of the building during construction. And I feel that it's necessary, not only necessary, but a good idea. We need the swing space desperately because unlike other projects, we don't have the luxury of building an addition on the school that we can fit out and use for swing space, and we don't have the luxury of portable classrooms. So we need as many areas as we can get for swing space to keep the phasing down. Even with the pre-K kids going to another school, I don't see how we can do this project with any fewer than 6 phases because we just don't have enough rooms for swing space.
Okay, so Steve, go ahead and ask your questions.
Yes, again, I have not been privileged to the discussions you've had with Dr. Brummett or Jason or Lou. And I do understand the logic of your recommendations. The thought crossing my mind is that if we are able to say, for example, relocate 4th grade to another facility, it's an example, it's only for thought, is that will that allow us to reduce the number of phases and the demand that you have within your current recommendations so that you can tackle more of the facility in each proposed phase versus your current 6 phases. The thought going through my mind is that taking this into the summer of 2024, it has always been my experience that a longer schedules equals greater cost. And I would love to try to get the contractor larger segments of the facility to work on in each phase.
Yes, there are huge benefits to relocating grade 4 or as many other grades you can out of this to increase swing space and increase the area that you can turn over to the contractor. I think it also has the added benefit of taking staff and students out of, what's normally a disruptive process. The goal here is to make this as least disruptive as possible, which is why we're working on this phasing plan so early in the process. But, we all know that trying to educate kids in a construction zone is not an ideal situation. So yes, that would be a benefit to the schedule. However, it doesn't alleviate this problem, which is renovating this section of the building with these rooms occupied or relocated. I think you could agree if you walked into this kitchen and took all of the MEP and health department regulations into consideration and then realized you'd have to relocate this kitchen into an art room or a music room or a classroom, it would be a large expense to provide a room that the health department would approve, that would have the power required to run a bunch of refrigerators. How would kids queue into this room to pick up their food? Where would they eat? A cafeteria, which would also have to be approved by the health department. And then when this phase is over, when the cafeteria work is complete, we have to go back into the temporary kitchen and remove everything we just spent money on. And then fitted out for its permanent use. It would be an extremely disruptive situation. And additionally, trying to redo your entrance lobby and your parent drop off would be almost impossible, because as the building functions now, one-way traffic comes off of, I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the residential street, but
Reservoir Road.
yes, so both the buses and parents come off this street, and the buses queue up here, and they queue up in 2 rows. So they're packed in here. Yes, kids get on these buses from the back of the school, but if you shut this down as a parent drop off and pick up, you would have to mix that traffic into your bus traffic. And at least when I was there last week, I happened to be leaving the meeting exactly when school was letting out. And there were parent cars lined all the way down the street, all the way down the entrance drive, excuse me, and into the street. So I don't know feasibly how we could combine a parent drop-off pickup with the bus drop-off pickup and do this work when the school's occupied. And again, you know, even relocating a main office space, there's wiring for PA systems, security systems. Your fire alarm panels end up going here and are existing here. Again, it's just, it's not something, honestly, that I've ever done. So I think the goal to keep everyone safe is to do this work during a summer. And unfortunately, I don't believe the first summer is an option, because it's going to take a long time to procure these materials. And the design documents won't be complete enough to order these materials for when we would need them to do this the first summer. So by default, we're ending up doing this work the second summer.
Steve, do you want to follow up, or are you done? And I'll move on to Chris.
No, I'm done. It's not the time to do brainstorming, but thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Chris, you want to try again?
Yeah, we'll try this again.
You're better now.
So
No.
the first question.
Maybe you could write your questions down and hold them up and we could read them.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris, you're not coming through at all.
Or any member can always email me questions.
So the person is, yeah, we're looking at phase. So the summer of, oh, wait.
No, he's
Hear me now.
yes, now you're clear.
I'm not going to move at this point. All right. The first question would be 23. We have phase 6 would be potentially the summer of 24. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
All right. So we have the summer of 22 and the summer of 23. Is there any reason to not be able to phase them in on 23 for that area that seems like it's going to be extremely disruptive?
I can look at it.
I mean, the other thing is, I think, at least from my experience, is the ones, and again, this is from experience, is the ones that tend to be able to offer some real good responses are the ones that are physically having the responsibility of delivering the project on that schedule.
Yeah.
So with that said, I think the sooner we get a CM involved, the better off we'll be to get their added input, because again, sometimes you can think of something out of the box that everybody else missed and it works. So back to that question, which was the schedule, Steve, is closing on the 30th with us to hear on the 1st.
Correct, which is our next regular scheduled meeting.
Okay, and then theoretically, it would go to the council for the 6th. Am I correct on that date, James?
That is correct.
Okay, and how quickly are we looking to get the CM involved? It would be normally, old business, new business and closure, or do we really need to push the date on trying to act on it at that point?
I never like to push the council, Chris, so I would prefer
Yeah.
that we don't, and it goes its normal course. If the council so chose, I would obviously gladly accept them moving it on the first night, but I don't think it's that critical that we have to, but
Okay,
Just for a correction, Mr. Chairman, the next meeting in the council would be the 13th, not the 6th.
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's
okay.
okay. You
Yeah,
guys-
so see, second and fourth, I'm sorry, yeah.
All right, so if we went that, I mean, you would basically be pushing them into, not being able to deal with it until the 27th. So you'd be almost into August at that point.
Correct.
Is that desirable or not desirable? I don't know how quickly the schematic is coming in, because this is all really going to come to play once we start to figure out exactly how this phasing will go.
I can answer that. The issue with that, with delaying conceptual design, is that the rest of the time you've given your architect to do the subsequent phases will be compressed. And I don't know, that's something that'll have to be discussed with KBA. I don't think it's feasible for them to be able to do a thorough job on the documents if that time is lost, yet they are still expected to produce not only an early bid package for pre-ordering materials for the first summer, but a full set of documents for the rest of the project. I don't think that's enough time, unfortunately, for them to be able to do what they need to do. And I think what we've all just discussed here as far as town council meeting on the 13th, and then, probably taking to the next meeting before we get an approval, is another reason why I kind of cut out the conceptual design estimating services from the CMRFP. So a lot of great ideas have come out of tonight's meeting. If there are grades, grade 4 or whatever, that can be relocated to another school to open up more space, that is a huge benefit to the phasing plan. And what I'd like to do is go back and see if I can not only reduce the phases, but move the front entrance work into the second summer. I need
Sorry.
to, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Chris, do you have another question, or Dr. Brummett wants to chime in, but I don't want to cut you off.
No, I would much rather have Dr. Brummett chime in.
Okay.
I'll give it to her.
All right, so let's hear from Dr. Brummett, Marnie, so she can comment on what you said. Because the Board of Ed's got to buy in. If they don't want to move the kids don't get moved. It's that simple.
Yeah, what we've looked at, and when Jason and I looked at the phasing plan today together, we wondered about whether pre-K had to move. I mean, though their classroom is going to get used for space, they could possibly go somewhere else within the building. But my other real question is, and there really isn't a school that can take anything more than maybe 2 pre-K classrooms. We've looked at it. E. Green, Ruth Chafee, very full schools. Patterson has been, put on notice that we may be shipping 2 pre-K classrooms over there. But beyond that, I don't see us having that kind of space. So that's, just to kind of fill in the blank on that. But Marnie, I was wondering for that first summer, so we're talking summer of 22, as I'm understanding tonight's discussion, there's really no construction happening. It's strictly abatement. And my wonder is, your concern was about securing appropriate materials, which I know is very real in the COVID aftermath, but if we could get the materials, could construction start next summer?
Well, and I just want to point out that the lead time associated with certain items is not just long because of COVID. So even if certain materials that we're experiencing delays with right now are over in a year, there are still items that take quite a long time to procure. So exterior windows is a great example. So this project needs all new exterior walls and windows. So they can take from 8 to 12 weeks, as well as your elevator could also take 8 to 12 weeks. And that's upon approval of shop drawings. The contractor for both these items can't do shop drawings unless they have a complete set of construction documents. So what's happening is if you try to order this material even earlier, you're expecting your architect to finish documents so much, you know, you're in the middle of design development. It's just too early in the process for the documents to be complete enough to be able to do that.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Maureen?
No, I mean, Marnie answered tonight when the cafeteria would be done, because Jason and I were wondering that this afternoon. That's clearly been articulated tonight. Yeah, I feel bad. Next summer is going to be sort of not used for construction, but it sounds like with all the timing elements, that's pretty much the way it has to be.
Now, again, I will revisit this to see what I can do about moving the front entrance work to the second summer. So let me take a look at that, even though we won't have any grades relocated above pre-K, of course. Also, please remember that the CM may make certain changes to the ultimate plan. So the cafeteria, you know, again, I'm going to try to get this in the second summer. So there may be some changes once they get involved, but they have to work with the school to come up with something that works for you. So
They can't make it unilaterally. They have to.
right.
But this is a preliminary.
Yes.
This is really just like a conceptual design of how you would be phased. This could change drastically, or we might follow it to the T. All the way.
And yeah, that's correct. And honestly, I think it's a better scenario if we tell bidders now that this summer is on the table and we understand the cost of that. Remember, their bid form has a cost to add or deduct months from their fee if the project is completed earlier or goes later. So we're not going to lose out on any opportunity to shorten this schedule. We're going to continue to work towards that over the next year before the CM goes out for subcontractor bids. So this, again, is a first blush scenario, but because we need to get a CM on board as soon as possible, I can't hold off presenting something to them to take into consider, you know, for them to be able to price. And I'd rather have them price a more complicated phasing plan with the 6 phases than to promise them only 4 phases and be hit with unexpected costs later.
There's two more hands up, Marty, but before I go to them, we didn't discuss anything about the courtyard, and there's going to be some work in there. Have you talked? Has there been discussions as when that will be done?
You know, there's the courtyard is going to be affected, I can tell you, during each phase. All of these window walls need to the windows get completely removed and the walls and the windows get replaced. You're also having some cracking on your foundation. Jennifer and I took a look at this last week when we were on site. And she's referred this situation to her structural engineer, who does believe it needs to be addressed. So you're going to, during each of these phases, you're going to have your contractor with probably smaller excavating equipment, which they'll have to get in through this these doors. You're going to be digging up the courtyard along the perimeter, as well as where you're building your elevator. Now, the interior of the courtyard, I don't really have an understanding right now of what that scope of work is. Jennifer could probably respond better to that. But what we can do, if the school still wants to use the central area of this corridor during construction, we'll make sure the contractor fences off where they're working.
Okay, yeah, I don't think it's so much of using it, it's just when it fits in, and thinking about it now after you just spoke, you're right. There's pretty much those exterior walls are coming right down and right out. So the courtyard will be one of the last things that gets completed as far as whatever finishes it gets. So it'll be in the either phase 5, phase 6, you know. So that answered my question. Chris, I see you have your hand up again, and then Dr. Brummett.
Yeah, just to clarify with Marty, so what is the tentative schedule on CD and SD and CD? What's the schedule as it's outlined right now?
I'm going to refer that to our friends at Castle Booze.
Or to Jennifer?
Okay. So we were looking at beginning our design development next month, really, mid-July.
Jennifer, you mean SD?
We were looking at, sorry, not completing, I don't know what I said now, but starting our design development mid-July. I mean, that was our hope, but typically we would have, after schematic design, we would provide a cost estimate on the schematic design package. And the plan was that the construction manager would also provide a cost estimate at the end of schematic design, and that would get reconciled before we could go to design development. So while we can hold up our end of that schedule and complete our schematic design, and we can be pretty close to getting our our schematic design estimate, done in July, August. I don't know if that's I don't know, with the CM not being on board yet, when they can do the schematic design and reconcile with us. But we had originally thought we would get that reconciliation done in July.
If I could I'm sorry to interrupt, Steve. If I could make a suggestion, I think it would be very helpful for Castle Boost to go back to the schedule that they had been planning on and update it to reflect getting a CM on board early August, and providing maybe a comparison for next meeting for the committee, like a kind of a bar chart that shows, a start, conceptual design, schematic design, DD, design development, CD, bidding, Jennifer, if you guys could put that together, I think that would be very helpful.
Sure, we
Yeah,
we
because
could. Mhm.
because my concern, Steve, is if we give up a month, it's gonna cost us 3 months plus on the backside. Am I misleading on that, Jennifer, or am I accurate?
I don't know that I can answer that on my feet right now without,
Right, I don't
taking
want to
in
put
all
you on the
this.
spot.
Yeah.
So the best we obviously could do, we could pick up 2 weeks. We can request it to council, act on it the very first night. And if they do that, we pick up 2 weeks. So I will reach out to the mayor and see if that's something that's agreeable with the mayor and the majority leader and minority leader. And as long as they're willing to move it forward, and which maybe we plead our case, they'll take it under
I
advisement.
mean, even more
advanced
advanced to that, Steve, would be if we make our decision on the 1st to possibly ask for something that following week. Because then you're talking almost a month's difference. And a month will cost us almost 3 on the back if I had to pen it.
Yeah, again, whether they'll do a special meeting or not, because that's what you're asking for, that I can't answer.
Yeah, I can speak with Mr. Camillo and
Yeah.
the rest of the, so we'll see if we can do that. All right, I don't want to get stuck on this. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Marty, anything else or any other questions of Marty? And
No, I think I'm good. Again, I'll put together that addendum tomorrow. We'll get it out. We'll do the walkthrough. We'll have the interviews. We'll get the proposals. We'll just keep pushing.
okay, so the next item on our agenda is the construction manager's RFP, which we've kind of gone over already and discussed. So if there is nothing further on that, I'm just going to move on to any other business pertinent to the committee. Jeff, I know you will not be with us on the 1st.
That is correct. I'm going to be out of town from the 25th of June to the 5th of July.
Okay, so we'll make sure that we get accurate minutes to you so you can get those published, and any actions that are taken, we will make sure that we also forward those to you for your record keeping, okay?
Thank you.
And that's going to move us to public participation. And we still have one attendee. So I believe it's *9 to raise your hand because you're on the phone. Give them a second.
Doesn't look like they have.
No, I guess it's just a listener.
Yep.
Next item is comments by members. Anybody have anything that they would like to say at this time? Nope. No hands. Okay. Marnie, thank you.
Thank
gave
you
us a lot of
all.
information. Jennifer, same. Paul, we appreciate all the work that you're doing. We'll do our best to get the CM on board as fast as possible. Hopefully the interviews go really well on the 1st, and we can make the decision that night and get the council to take action and keep everybody moving forward on this. So with that,
Thank
a
you so much.
motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, by Mr. Camillo.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.